Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies for starting late. Our morning session ran considerably over length. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants are automatically muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only committee members are participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you originally registered with. If you call in with a different item with a different number, you will not be able to speak on that item. To ensure audio clarity, I suggest that you do not use the speakerphone function on your telephones. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Alan Smithies, and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are Ron Hunt, Asif Khan, Paul Kidd, and Adini Sankar Peralta. City staff are also present. Daniel Antonacci, Amir Nassan, and Adam Wills. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, it may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. The hearing procedure is as follows. We'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if desired. If the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak on that item. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute limit. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that a revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, are invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers. This marks the end of discussion on the item. The application is then taken into committee for a decision. I just wanted to ask, are there any committee members here this afternoon who have a conflict of interest they'd like to declare? Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to declare a conflict on item number 39 as I'm familiar with the owner.
Okay, thank you. That's item number 39, Mr. Hunt.
Correct, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're on item number 22, 7 Carhart Street, 12 and 18 Marquette Avenue. I have two people registered, pardon me, item number 22. I have 2 people registered to speak. The agent is Terry Kaufman. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please?
Terrence Lee Kaufman, 5400 Yonge Street, Suite 403, Toronto, M2N 5R5.
Okay, thank you, sir. I was just going through your application. I see that there's a report from Transportation Services. There was an original report dated the 14th of October recommending deferral so you can obtain off-site visitor parking. And we just received a subsequent report to that from Transportation indicating that you did obtain that off-site parking, so they had no objections to your application. There is one other person registered to speak, sir, so if you would like to give the committee a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal, we can. Let me just ask first, Mr. Adam, is Adele Blau, is she here?
Mr. Chair and members, I think they are present. They're logged in as a user. That can't be unmuted, but they also appear to be logged in potentially as a phone-in caller. So,
thank you, Mr. Wills. Mr. Kaufman, if you could give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Terry Kaufman, and this application is solely to redesignate parking spaces. There's no material change to the building proposed, which is under construction. We propose to designate the 3 visitor parking spaces outside of the parking garage off the property. This proposal is supported by our parking study, transportation engineer, and the city's transportation department. Both of these documents are in support of our application, are on file with the committee. I am presently with the architect of record, Gordon Pape, and if there's any questions you may have as a result of the site plan and the applications, Mr. Pape is available to speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have Adele Blau, B-L-A-U. Are you there, madam?
Good afternoon. I am here.
Yes,
my
madam.
name is
Can I get
Adele
your full
Blau.
name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Adele Blau. I reside at 16 Stadacona Drive. I also represent number 22 Stadacona Drive. The reason why I'm bringing the views, our views to the committee today is because this is a very unique neighborhood, and I believe that the planning committee, when changing the zoning several years ago, when this was first proposed, did a major change in terms of not minor variances, but the actual plan and the zoning. So I think that they actually need to give them respect to which their views on it in the first place, and why the parking was allotted in the way it was. So Marquette is abutting Stadacona Drive, and the parking garage is situated on the back of triplexes, which have a backyard. There are many children on the street, and there are many children in the neighborhood. There was an 11 townhouses that were put up on Stadacona Drive that have, with an extra 11 parking spaces provided by the city, And that is actually not enough for this neighborhood. Both Stadacona, Carhart, and Marquette are cul-de-sacs, and they only have one outlet. The traffic is very, very troublesome as it stands, and I think that bringing vehicular traffic to the street in terms of visitors is not enough. By the way, the 11 townhouses each have their own parking spot, but that's not enough. Usually they all, pretty much the majority, own a second car and do end up parking on the street. So when visitors come, the overflow is in illegal parking spots. So that's the first piece. The second piece I wanted to bring to the committee's attention is that there was another minor variance that turned out to be very not minor with respect to the actual changing of the property line, which resulted in the property owners digging into the properties on Stadacona. So I just, in terms of this being a minor variance, I want to bring to attention that there are other things that might happen down the line, and removing visitor parking from the actual site can bring problems. So with regard to the problems that we're having, they actually dug into the properties. A child fell into the hole there. They have not removed their fencing. During COVID, nobody could use their backyards. They've been taking a caterpillar through 22 Stadacona. There are many, many different things. The environment has been full of styrofoam. There's not cleanup. So there's a lot that's been happening in terms of the environment here and impacts to the residents. So it's not just about what's happening at this moment. It's what might be happening in the future as a result of this change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Being none, I'll go back to the agent, Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman, are you there?
Nothing else to say. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I have anything else to say. We've done our best to cooperate with the neighborhood, and I think we are continuing to do so.
Okay, thank you. I know that this site is currently under construction, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kaufman, did you have any meeting with the neighborhood people?
I had many meetings with the neighborhood people, not this meeting, not today, but before we had started, we had many, many meetings. I presented everything to everybody and kept in touch with the neighborhood all the way through.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this application, I was worried about the transportation report, some of the parking study, some of the general concerns that I had heard from the debutantes today. But now that they've worked out that plan with, the city, and I feel that, for me, this application does meet the 4 tests. So I'll put forward a motion to approve this application as is.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for all your time, the chair and the committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 23, which was 205 Courtly, which should have been on the morning's agenda. We have dealt with that one, so we'll proceed to item number 24, which is 15 Artinger Court. I have 2 people registered to speak. The agent is Eric Jensen. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Yes, hello, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Eric Jensen, and I live at 170 Indian Road Crescent
Okay, thank you,
in
sir.
Toronto.
I've been going through your report, your file. I noticed we have a couple of reports listed there. There's one recommended condition from urban forestry, there's a report from City Planning dated the 14th of October recommending that the following modifications be made to the application, namely to reduce variance number 1 regarding the front yard setback from 6.75 meters to 7.5 meters for the second-story overhang portion and 8.72 meters for the at-grade garage. And they also indicate that should committee approve the revised application, staff recommends that the front yard setback be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing attached to their report. I just wanted to ask, sir, did you want to make that modification to variance number 1 as described in the planning report?
Yes, we've already made that change and have submitted those drawings to
Okay,
committee.
so just to read it into the public record, then variance number 1 is being changed. The front yard setback is being increased from 6.75 meters to 7.5 meters for the second-story overhang portion and 8.72 meters for the at-grade garage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. In view of the fact that we have one other person registered to speak, sir, if you'd like to give the committee a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yes, could we kindly pull up the C of A supporting material dated October 13th? I put together 5 slides that can perhaps visually accompany my explanation. We worked very closely with the neighborhood. We've canvassed everybody on the street, including the neighbor behind the property at 90 Post Road. Everybody on the street that we could contact in any case has given written or verbal approval. We met with the owners of 11 Arkinger Court last night who had concerns of the view that they would have of the side wall from their backyard. We have a gentleman's agreement in place to work with them in the articulation of that wall. And I think we have their support. Also, we do, in reaching out to the neighbor at the back of the property, Mr. Halbert, he raised concerns about the overlook across the 2 properties. We have agreed to work with him, and if a fence or a hedge or understory planting is required to assist the privacy issue, we're willing to do that. You can see in the page 1, you just go back 1 slide, over 50% of the front yard setbacks are less than the prescribed 9 meters. And we're, I think, with the massing of that condition. Page 2 shows that shows the existing house dotted with the proposed in blue. We worked very closely with the TRCA, who had indicated that the back of the house would need to align with the proposed, which is what we've done. There is a 6-meter setback for any decks or stairs from the top of bank, which is what we've also done. And you can see the characteristic linear forest that sweeps on the back of the property. Going to page number 3, you'll see the articulation of the front of the house in terms of breaking down the massing and the keeping of the existing front yard tree, which I think has been important to the neighborhood. Page 4 shows the linear forest at the back of the properties along Arkinger Court. And you can see the ravine both in the winter and summer that is at the back of the property, quite a dense kind of wall of green, if you like. And page 5 is a section of the property. On the left is 90 Post Road. You can see the linear forest, and you can see our proposed with the alignment at the back of the house. Moving on to the variances. As mentioned previously, we are fine with changing variance number 1 as prescribed by planning. Variance number 2 regarding the TRCA and their mandate over the stable top of bank. From the very conception of the project, we've reached out to the TRCA and followed their guidelines judiciously as we designed the project. They provided a report indicating that they have no objections to the proposed works. In conclusion, we believe that the proposal meets the 4 tests of approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Mary Beth or John Williamson. Are you there?
I am.
Yes, can I get your full name?
John
and address,
Williamson,
please?
John Williamson, 11 Archinger Court. We're the immediate neighbors of 15 Archinger Court.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak, Mr. Chairman and the committee.
Sir, if you'd like to give us your
I'll start by,
if you'd like to give us your thoughts
sure.
on the application.
I'll start by highlighting to the committee. Sorry?
If you'd like to give us your thoughts on the application.
Sure. I'll start by highlighting to the committee that the architect and homeowner have engaged us in a positive and proactive basis as they move their project forward. They've been open and understanding about our concerns. They've offered reasonable solutions and set a framework and foundation of being good neighbors as we move forward. Our backyard is our most cherished asset. Therefore, we've extensively reviewed and scrutinized the proposed new house and their build. The homeowner and architect have met with us several times. They've listened to our ideas and have been open and accommodating to what we'd like to see happen. They worked hard to maintain the integrity of the natural elements of the property. As you can see, it's a very robust green backyard with lots of trees and foliage. And we're very happy with what they've come forward with to allow us to be able to maintain and enjoy our backyard. I'd just like to make one other comment. I understood that there may be some issues with 90 Post Road. I would say that having been a resident on the street for since 1994, I will tell you that when the foliage is in, and even in the winter, that those trees and canopy are very robust. There's over 200 trees on our property alone that it's virtually impossible to see down to Post Road or that house or that dwelling down on Post Road. And so I would say that we are very supportive of the variations that have been proposed, and we're supportive of the architect and the homeowner as they move forward. They've done a great job in working with us. I'll also point out that our street is filled with construction and teardowns. These are the first homeowner and architect to come and fully engage us and listen to our ideas, and I applaud them for doing so and being so cooperative.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Being none, I'll go back to Mr. Jensen. You heard the comments from Mr. Williamson. Did you have any additional comments?
No, I believe not. No.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've listened to the applicant and his agreement to modify the front yard setback from 6.75 meters to 7.5 meters and the second story overhang to 8.2 meters.
8.72, Mr. Hunt.
8 point. And that the condition that the front yard be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan attached to the planning staff report. And also urban forestry, I am happy to recommend approval of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application's been approved, subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Item number 25. 199 Northwood Drive. I have one person registered to speak. That is Ali Shakiri. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East. Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. I note that the only staff comment on your application is recommended condition from urban forestry. Other than that, the application is, what you're asking for is very clear. I just wanted to ask, sir, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
No, sir. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel the requested variances meet the criteria for minor variance, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry condition.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved subject to urban forestry conditions. Item number 26, 108 Plateau Crescent. I have one person registered to speak, and Abu Safar Qureshi. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm Abu Zafar Qureshi.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to
108
ask,
Plateau.
there's a report, couple of reports on file with your application. There's a report from with a recommended condition from urban forestry. There's a transportation services report of the 14th of October, who have no objection to your driveway width of 6.1 meters, provided that the driveway portion in the public road allowance is reduced to 6 meters. So I just wanted to ask if you've seen that report.
Yes, I have seen both of them and have no objection. We will comply with both.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going, it's pretty clear what you're asking for in the variances we have before us. We have no other persons registered to speak on this item. Is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
Not really. If committee of the members have any question, I'm ready to clarify.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the transportation services has okayed and staff has no recommendation. I find this application as a very simple variances complying with the zoning bylaws. I move that this application be approved with conditions of the forestry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application is unanimously approved subject to urban forestry and transportation services conditions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members.
Item number 27, 150 Hannah Road. I have one person registered to speak. That's Mahir Manios. Are you there, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, sir. I have a report here from registered with your application from City Planning, dated the 14th of October, and they're recommending that your application be refused. So what I wanted to ask you, sir, is in view of that recommendation, would you like to defer the application so that you can discuss it further with City Planning?
Actually, Mr. Chair, the only thing that I am aware of is transportation. There's nothing from City Planning.
I have, oh, I'm sorry. My mistake, sir. Transportation Services. That was the one that was recommending refusal. Correct. Driveway width is significantly wider than the width of the garage, and therefore they're recommending it be refused. Did you want to defer the application to discuss it with them, or would you like it heard today?
No, we would like to proceed, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right then. In view of this fact, then I guess you should give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So in front of you is one variance to legalize the existing driveway width and 5.08 versus the allowable 3.38. Just to give you a bit of history, the house was built back in 2017, so both house and driveway has existed for the last 4 years. The original driveway that existed before the new house was built was actually on the southerly end of the property, about 1.4 meter away from the large Norway maple tree, which shows in one of the pictures that we've submitted as part of the supporting material. Back when we were designing the house, we shifted the driveway to over 5 meters away from that tree to ensure that there was adequate protection for it, and this was done with support of forestry. There's one thing that's unique about number 150 is the frontage of it. As per the drawings, the frontage is 13.1 meters. This is the widest property on the street. The majority of the houses on the west side, the same side as number 150, their frontages are on the average of around 11.5 meters. With the house next door, which is the one that's showing on the picture at number 148, is just shy of 11 meters wide. Whereas the houses across the road on the east side, they're on average 9.5 meters. So the property that we're dealing with here is the widest, just given the shape of it. And because of that, we do comply with all the requirements of the front yard landscaping. So the actual open front yard landscaping is at 65%. Versus the allowable 50%, and the soft landscaping is 50% over the required landscaping, which is actually, to be specific, 36 square meters versus the required 24 square meter. The pictures you see in front of you shows a variety of houses on Hannah Road between Parkhurst and Sharon, and I'd like to submit that about over 40% of the houses have wider driveways that exceed the driveway, the garage, or the parking space. And most of those, if not all of them, are on properties which are substantially narrower than the subject property. There was a reason for the driveway being made wider than the allowable 11 feet was because we have a high grade on the north side. Hence, we're required to put a retaining wall, which meant that the car cannot be parked too close to the edge of the driveway. So it has to be about 2.5 feet or so away to be able to open the door. And same thing on the other sides, to have a walkway to be able to get us to the front door of the house. That was the reason behind making it wider. The owner has engaged with the neighbors over the last month and a half that we've submitted this application, and you'll find in front of you, as part of the package, there's 8 letters of support, including both adjacent north and south neighbors, and additional also the neighbors across the road. As far as the clients know, they've been living there for the last 4 years since the house has been built. Nobody's ever objected to the driveway condition, and even the works department, when they came and did the new curb cut, because we shifted the driveway from the southerly end of the property, they actually matched the driveway. So it's odd that after the fact they came and complained, and hence we had to come in front of the committee to legalize the driveway. And as mentioned, the planning has no, I'm assuming they have no objection to this application, given the fact that they haven't written anything on file. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. No, what you're saying confirms with what I observed when I was looking at your site on the street. There's a lot of driveways that are similar in style and width to yours. Anyway, I'll just ask, does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Sir, I want to know from Mr. Manos whether the house is semi-detached or detached.
It's a detached house, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Any further questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Mr. Chair, I think I have listened to the applicant, and I'm persuaded that the width of the driveway being requested is indicative of the neighborhood. Therefore, I would move approval of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved without condition. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Item number 28, 156 Snowden Avenue. I have two people registered to speak. I have a Babak Gassemi. Are you there?
Mr. Chair, yes, I'm here.
Yes, hello, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, I am Babak Haji Gassemi from Arclatch Studio, 35 Eglinton Avenue West, second floor.
Thank you, sir. Going through your file, I note there's a couple of staff reports listed there. There's a recommended condition from Urban Forestry. There's a report from City Planning dated the 14th of October, which is recommending reducing variance number 1 with respect to the side exterior main wall height from 8.65 meters to below 8 meters, and reducing variance number 2 regarding the floor space index from 0.77 meters, from 0.77 to 0.68 or under. And you had the opportunity to review those reports, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I actually wanted to request for a deferral if is okay. We didn't get a chance to talk to a few of our neighbors. The owner was on vacation, and we wanted to, and we found out that there are some concerns from them that we wanted to actually address some of those concerns by talking to them. So if we can request for deferral, that would be great.
Okay, so a deferral for the purposes of discussing it with the neighbors and city planning. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Just have to ask, there's one other person here first. Val Downey, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, madam. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Valerie Downey, 169 Golfdale Road. I'm directly behind the 156 Snowden
Okay,
Avenue.
the agent is requesting a deferral so he can discuss this application with the neighbors as well as city planning. Do you object to the deferral?
No, I don't. In fact, actually, I just wanted to make sure, that's why I'm on, because I did speak to the owner just yesterday and he said that it was going to be deferred, but you just want to be sure, right, that the request is going through.
No, yeah, he's requested a deferral. We'll move a motion on it, but once
Perfect.
Once it's deferred and he meets with the neighbors and the planning department, then he'll come back with another application and it will be circulated to the neighborhood again. So you'll have another chance to look at it, at the revised application.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Any questions
Thank
of the
you.
speaker? Being none, could I get a motion on the deferral request, please? Ms. Sankar?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll move deferring this application so that the applicant can get a chance to really work this out with planning and with the neighbors. And I'll make that sine die. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been deferred to the next available meeting so that you can discuss your application with the surrounding neighbors in the city planning division. Now we're on item number 29, which is 156 Snowden Avenue. Pardon me, I'm sorry, 255 Snowden Avenue. I have 8 people registered to speak. I have the agent, Nafisa Zangiabadi. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
This
hello.
is Nafisa Zangiabadi.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please?
Nafisa Zangiabadi. Address is 30 Apple Orchard Path, Thornhill, L3T3B6.
Okay, thank you. I have, going through your report, I noted that there's recommended conditions from urban forestry. There's a city planning report dated the 14th of October, which recommends the site exterior main wall heights be developed substantially in accordance with the east and west side elevation drawings attached to this report. Other than that, they have no objection to your proposal. In view of the fact, madam, may I ask, have you had the opportunity to review those reports?
Yes, and we're okay with those.
Okay, thank you. In view of the fact that we have other speakers on your application, madam, if you could give a presentation to the committee on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yes, this is an application to construct a new 2-story dwelling, and we're asking for 4 variances in total. 2 of them deal with the height, and 1 is gross floor area, and the other is the length. As for the height, the main wall height that we're proposing, the 8.68, is due to the bay window that we have at the rear of the house and the front, whereas the entire side wall is under 8 meters, which is 7.9 meters. And staff recommended that the plans to be developed according to the side elevation, which we're okay with that. Our overall height is just about like 8 inches more than what is permitted. It's phenomenal. And then as for the gross floor area, staff has no concern for the gross floor area. However, we had the meetings with our neighbors, and our immediate neighbors had some concern about that. So we would like, as per our discussion with them and in keeping a good relation with them, we would like to reduce that to be more in keeping with what has been approved in the neighborhood in the past few weeks, like the committee 2 weeks ago and the week before that, for number 265, 156, and 232 Snowden Avenue. They were all approved at 0.675. So we would like to reduce our gross floor area to 0.675. And that automatically will remove our length variance. So basically, it's going to just keep us with 2 variances for the height, which I explained why we're having those.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list.
I have, sir.
I have a Harold S. Delkey.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please, sir?
It's Harold Dalkey. I'm at 216 Heath Street East.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
First of all, my mother-in-law, Rosemary Lipday, lives at 251 Snowden, immediately west of the property being discussed. She's lived there since 1988, and in 2007, she began construction of a new home that addressed the concerns from the neighborhood, has an FSI much less than what's proposed by this applicant, and dealt with considerable soil and drainage issues during construction. And in the end, she tried to make sure that the house that was constructed was in keeping with the character of the street. Based on our review of the application, we wish to emphasize that the overall, as mentioned before, wall height will overwhelm the adjacent buildings. We're also worried about the fate of 2 trees, one in the front and one in the rear, on my mother-in-law's property that currently provide exceptional privacy screening. And as an aside, we also wonder why a front yard setback variance is not being required. It looks like the length of the garage bump out in the front makes the average setback from the adjacent buildings higher than what's actually permitted. So, however, while we strongly request the committee deny this application, if it is approved, we would request that the committee ensure that an arborist report be commissioned to ensure this current backyard screening is maintained. Ensure the rear 2-foot bump out does not permit east or west facing glazing. Ensure that no windows are permitted on the west wall. There are none that are identified at this point in time. But if there are, that the applicable side yard setback and fire shutter requirements are applied. And finally, ensure that the deck, which is identified as a 6-foot deck, remains a 6-foot deck, is tied to the site plan and contains privacy screenings as well. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, sir, did you get a chance to read the staff report from city planning on this application?
Yes, I did, sir.
Oh, did you notice their comment about the main sidewall height?
In looking at yes, I did. But I couldn't find on the actual drawing, especially in the rear yard, what how high that the wall is relative to 251's building.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll go to the next person on the list. I have a David Stewart. Are you there? David?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
David Stewart at 77 Gulfdale Road.
Okay, thank you. Do you like to give us your thoughts on this application?
Yeah, so I'm on the board of directors of the Teddington Park Residents Association, and we simply want to lend our support to those that have been objecting to the development proposal. We feel the floor space index is still too high. Now, just learning that it's gone down, but generally the street is in a floor space index of around 0.6. Some have gone over that, but we don't want to use some of those exceptions as being what the new norm is. Normally on the street, the floor index is about 60, so we want to try and keep that down. It's important that we control some of these precedents that are going on in the neighborhood. We do have, I think there are 6 or more, I guess, letters of objection, one from Jay Robinson, the city councilor as well. So we just want to say that we feel the building is still too big. We need to maintain the low density and open space in our larger neighborhood, and there are issues with rain runoff, and we don't feel that some of these variances are minor. So we will support those that are objecting.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Susan Beach. Are you there? Susan Beach, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please?
Susan Beach, B-E-A-C-H, 271 Snowden Avenue.
Okay, thank you, madam. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to reiterate what was already in my letter, but I have water concerns on the street, which was addressed in the letter and also by Jay Robinson. In addition, I take issue with the applicants stating that they're comparing the gross floor area and coverage as being in line with what is in our neighborhood. Our block on Snowden has 25 houses, and it is quite different in character to the other blocks of Snowden. And a few years ago, there were 7 of the 25 houses were rentals owned by builders. That has now gone down to 5 of 25, I believe, which is about 20%. The recent approval by the committee of 265 Snowden which the applicant referred to, happened to have rental properties adjacent and did not have as many objections, and so was reduced to by a very small amount. The other property they refer to, 232 Snowden, I believe is right now going to be coming before the committee in a matter of weeks and has not yet been approved. So I do strongly object to the coverage that is being asked for, in addition to the water issues, and then I'll let the immediate neighbors address the specifics of shading and wall sizes, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Sam Marinucci or Roseanne Stefani. Are you there? Sam Marinucci or Roseanne Stefani, are you there?
Mr. Chair, members, Sam is present on the call. Sam, go ahead.
Mr. Marinucci, are you there? One more time. Mr. Marinucci, are you there? We'll come back to him, Mr. Wills.
In the meantime, Sam, if you could log off and then log back in, and we'll make sure we catch you before we make a decision on this item.
We'll go to our next person on the list, Jen Wang. Are you there?
Mr. Chair and members, Jen is not present on the call at this time.
Okay, thank you. I have Elariza Agay Baradaran, and I'm sure I've made a botch of that. Are you there? Alariza? Alariza Baradaran?
Mr. Chair, members, Alariza is unmuted and they are able to speak. Go ahead.
Alariza? Alariza, are you there? Go to the last person on the list. We'll come back to them. Teresa Grosso, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please?
Teresa Grosso, 243 Snowden Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you.
M4N2B4.
If you'd like to give us your
Sorry?
thoughts on this application.
My general comment is it's far too big. It doesn't meet with the integrity of the design of the street. I'm concerned about the size and the light and the loss of our green space. So I oppose the application.
Thank you very much, Matt. It was very succinct. Thank you. Go back to Mr. Marinucci. Are you there? Mr. Marinucci?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Can I get your full name and address, please?
Sam Marinucci,
Thank you. Can I get your address?
257 Snowden Avenue.
Thank you. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Thank you. I live adjacent to the property at 257 Snowden. We submitted an objection letter expressing our strong objection to the request. The applicant did indicate earlier at this meeting that they're prepared to reduce the gross floor area to 0.67. That still exceeds the gross floor area of our home, which is 0.6, which is also in keeping with the other homes on this part of Snowden. Our greatest concerns are two. One is the building length, which would be, as proposed, 10 feet longer than our home. And the other one is the exterior side wall that we will be facing. As proposed, it would be 8 feet higher than our home. We're talking about the applicant's property and our property are each 25 by 125. We share a mutual drive. The impact of this on us will be, as indicated in our letter, we're going to be looking at a building that goes out 10 feet further, is 8 feet higher and substantially more significant in gross floor area. Also, we didn't become aware of this until October the 4th, when we received a letter in the mail. Even though the owner purchased the property in December, the applicant made no effort to consult or even advise us or our other nearby neighbors of this proposal. The first we were contacted by him was later on the week of October 4th, when it became apparent that the neighbors, including us, had some concerns. I would also note that there is one support letter on file from 232 Snowden, which appears to be a form letter that's simply signed. I would note that the owner of that property just submitted an application which is asking 0.75 gross floor area. As well, that form letter indicates that the owner consulted with him early on during the proposal, which certainly comes as a surprise to me and our other neighbors, because there was no attempt to contact any of us prior to the submission. So thank you for the opportunity to express our strong objection.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Being none, I'll go to the last person on the list. Alareza Baradaran, are you there? From 232 Snowden Avenue. Alareza.
Mr. Chair, they're present and unmuted.
Alareza Baradaran, are you there? Alareza Baradaran, are you there? Mr. Wells, I'll go back and let the agent speak. One more time, Alareza Baradaran, this is the last time. If that, we'll have to cut you off. One more time, Alareza Baradaran, are you there? No response. Okay, Mr. Wells, we'll take her off the list, whoever it is off the list. Go back to the agent. Nafisa Zangiabadi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you heard the comments from the previous speakers. If you'd like to reply.
Yes, I did. So first of all, I should mention, as the length variance that the gentleman just brought up, we are removing the length variance. So there's going to be no length variance, no coverage variance, no setback either on the sides or the front. One of the speakers mentioned something about the front setback and the landscaping. We don't have a front setback variance. We don't have a deck variance. We don't have any landscape variances. So in terms of the footprint of the building, we are actually within the bylaw. The tree, of course, we're complying with the urban forestry condition. We will have an arborist report. We will have a tree report prepared and do whatever is needed based on the arborist report. Windows, obviously, are building code issues. If there need to be a fire shutter, of course, there's going to be a fire shutter. Drainage, it's a grading issue during the building permit that will be addressed. It's not a committee matter. They had an issue with most of them had the issue with the gross floor area. So first of all, we did approach 4 of our neighbors. We had 3 letters of supports, I believe 2 of which were uploaded on the website. 1 was too late, so it didn't get to uploaded. We did spoke to our immediate neighbors and the one close by, so they were aware of the application. And even though the staff had no concern about our gross floor area, which is 0.7 now, we decided to reduce the gross floor area just because we spoke to them and we assured them that we're going to be in keeping up with the neighborhood, which is 0.67. Our immediate neighbor to the right, which the committee was 2 weeks ago, just got approved at 0.67. And the other one at 232, the staff, which the committee is, I think in 2 weeks, but the staff still recommend to be at 0.67. So 0.67 is not something that is unusual in the area. As I said, our immediate neighbor just got approved at 0.67. Even though, as I should mention again, that the staff even is okay with 0.7, but we're reducing to 0.67. Main wall height, as I addressed, is a technical issue. Entire wall, we don't even have a window projecting into the roof. Entire main wall is 7.9, and the 8.68 is just a bay window at the rear that is visible from the side. So basically, by removing variance number 1, we're just asking for 3 variants. Gross floor area is a very common number in the neighborhood, and variance 3 is technical, and variance 4 is just 7 inches above what is permitted, which is nominal. So I believe the application requested that the variances that we're requesting is minor in nature and in keeping with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, madam. I just want to ask a question with respect to your application. The building height complies with the new bylaw 569-2013?
Correct.
And you have no variances for
Under
side yard?
the only variance is under the old.
Yeah, you have the only the height variance is under the old obsolete City of Toronto
Yes,
bylaw.
correct.
Okay. You have no.
Yes, correct.
And you have no variances required for side yard setbacks, building depth, front or rear yard
Nothing.
setbacks, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could we get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the concerns of the neighbors. This is a big change from some of the housing that is existing out there. But when I actually look at the requested variances, they, as amended, they do look to be of a modest nature compared to what is they could be built as a right. And so as a result, I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application as revised, and subject to the condition that the side exterior main wall heights be developed substantially in accordance with the east and west side elevation drawings attached to this report. The planning staff report dated October 14th, 2021, and also subject to forestry conditions.
Mr. Kidd, I just wanted to ask, I don't think the application was revised.
Sorry, I thought they deleted variance number 1.
Pardon me?
Variance number 1, and then the gross floor area 0.67.
Okay, hang on just a moment, madam. Let me just confirm that. I may have missed it. So you're proposing to delete variance number 1?
Yes.
So is that the only change?
No. Also variance number 2, as we spoke to our
hang on
neighbors.
just a second. Variance number 1 is deleted. And variance number 2?
0.675.
To 0.671 from 0.703.
Sorry, 75. No, 75. 0.675.
0.675. Okay. Any other changes?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kidd. I stand corrected. So we have variance 1 is deleted. Variance number 2, the floor space index is reduced from 0.703 to 0.675. Thank you, Mr. Kidd. So you're recommending, I have a motion from Mr. Kidd to move approval of the revised application subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Mr. Hunt, are you in favor? Yes, that motion carries unanimously. Madam, your revised application's been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 30, 909 Castlefield Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That's Marco Vieira. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm the agent and the designer for this application.
Yes, thank you, sir. I note that there is one report on file from Urban Forestry here, a recommended condition. That's the only staff report. You have 3 variances before us that are very clear cut. I just wanted to ask, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
No, sir, Mr. Chair. I can answer any questions that the committee may have,
Okay.
but the information before you stays.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find this application, although there are no staff recommendations, I find it very simple and compliant to the zoning bylaw. Therefore, I move this application be approved with forestry conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that. Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Vieira, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Item number 31, 1061 Avenue Road. I have one person registered to speak. Victor Gutberg, are you there, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Victor Gilberg. I'm representing the owner of the property and also an architect. I'm residing at 33 Belvedere Crescent in Richmond Hill.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, looking through your file, there are no staff comments or recommended conditions. It's pretty clear what you're asking for in the variances we have before us. I'll just ask, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material that we have before us this afternoon?
Not really. I think our application is pretty straightforward. So we're proposing a 3rd-story addition to existing structure. We're trying to our design basically. We're trying to keep existing eaves lines. So basically the character of the house stays as is. And yeah, and I mean, if committee members have any questions, I would be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Can you, can the applicant just tell us again about variance number 3 and the floor space index?
Yeah, variance number 3. Variance number 3 in the floor space index. I think similar floor space index been approved in the area, so we just followed the other applications which have been submitted like recently. End of last year, committee approved 1.43 FSI, which is much larger than what we are asking for number 1076. Yeah, so basically, if you look at statistic table which attached to this site plan, the increase in existing floor space index is not that big. Like we're just adding 3rd floor and small addition on the 2nd floor to the existing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to know, Mr. Quickberg, about variance number 4. Your north side eaves are only 3 inches away while it requires 1 foot. It's so close. Why should I accept?
Well, it's basically this is existing condition. So the eaves of the existing house, they are already encroaching into the yeah. I think that that's related to the new, yeah, this existing. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we can easily remove this variance. Yeah, I think that hold on a second. Just the roof use may project minimum 0.9, provided there are no floors than 36 lot line. The proposed eaves are 0.75 from the north side lot line.
Mr. Gutberg, are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I'm just trying to. So we basically what the zone examiner is saying that we cannot be closer to 30 centimeters to the lot line, and we are 7.5 centimeters. So it's basically we our proposed eaves projection mimicking the existing one. So existing eaves on a two-story house, they're already that close to property lines. So, and what we are doing, our third-story eaves, they are projecting exactly the same as existing eaves. So I think that's not. If it would be just minor, like you said, couple of centimeters, then definitely we can eliminate. But it's it happened to be 22 and a half centimeters. So it's.
You are not answering my question, please.
Okay, maybe I didn't understand it. If you can.
You're yeah, okay. Mr. Khan, you got your question answered?
No, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Khan, if you can please repeat your question. Maybe I didn't understand what you're asking about.
All right, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think although there are no staff recommendations for this particular application, I find FSI, which is variance number 3, to be very high. 0.96 is too high. It's not minor and does not comply with the zoning bylaws. And he hasn't answered my variance number 4 question, which is too close to the lot line. Therefore, I move, and variance number 4 is the same, doesn't comply. Therefore, I move this application be refused.
I have a motion for Mr. Khan to refuse the application. Someone to second that motion? That motion doesn't carry. Can I get another motion? Ms. Sankar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I do accept the explanations that were provided by the applicant here today. While I did have concerns about number 3, I think that he presented it very well as being a bit characteristic, even though we don't set precedents for the neighborhood, but it seemed to be characteristic to me. And for that reason, I do believe that this application sits well with me as having met the 4 tests. I'll put forward a motion to approve this application as is.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries with Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved without condition.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Item number 32, 1002 Spadina Road. I have one person registered to speak. That's Cesare Patelli. Are you there?
Good afternoon. Yes, I am.
Yes, hello, sir. I just wanted to ask, I was looking at your file. Oh, can I get your full name and address, please?
Sure. It's Caesar Patelli on behalf of Evans Planning, Inc., 8481 Keel Street, Unit 12.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have a report before me from City Planning dated the 7th of October, which was recommending that you modify variance number 5 for the proposed building height as measured from 11 meters to 10.7 meters, and if it's not changed, that variance be refused. If we approve the revised application, they're recommending that the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and front and rear drawings submitted to the committee, included as attachments 1 and 2 to their report. So, sir, I just wanted to ask, were you proposing to modify variance number 5?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have modified that to 10.7 meters as per the attached drawings.
Okay, so we're going from 11 meters to 10.7 meters.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. We have no other persons registered to speak on this application. It's pretty clear what you're asking for in the variances we have before us. I'll just ask, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
No, Mr. Chair and committee members, I think it's fairly straightforward. I do have a short presentation, but I'm happy to forego that if the committee doesn't deem it necessary.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this revised application? Please note that variance number 5 for the proposed building height has been reduced from 11 meters to 10.7 meters as recommended by planning. So if I could get a motion on this revised application, please. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am prepared to move acceptance of this based on the applicant's confirmation that variance number 5 regarding proposed building height has been revised downward from 11.0 meters to 10.7 meters. And on the condition from planning that the building be developed substantially in accordance with site plan and front and rear drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries with Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item number 33, 185 Banff Road. I have 2 people registered to speak. The owner, Jeffrey Zato, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, sir. Jeffrey Zito, 185 Banff Road, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you, sir. I have, I'm just looking at a report here from City Planning dated the 7th of October, which recommends modifying variance number 3 for the proposed lot coverage to no more than 42%. And it says if a revised application is approved, staff recommends that the proposal be constructed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the committee, included as attachment 1 to their report. Were you proposing to reduce the lot coverage, sir, as recommended by planning?
No, I just want to continue on with what is proposed. I am speaking as the homeowner of 185 Banff, not an architect
Okay, sir.
or a builder.
Well, what I
so just to clarify.
suggest you do is, because we have one other person registered to speak, if you would make a presentation to the committee and then indicate why you have this disagreement with planning with regards to the coverage.
Sure. Yeah, no, appreciate that. We had actually connected with the planning committee and looked at comparables in the neighborhood along Broadway Avenue and south of Broadway. And we believe that the coverage is actually pretty close to other existing homes in the area. And so that is sort of one data point. I think the other piece, and certainly don't want to let this go unrecognized. But as a person who has lived there for 5+ years with 2 young kids, and looking at sort of the last year and a half with sort of the COVID situation, it's pretty paramount and also acute that the current space that we have in our existing home is inadequate, as both my wife and I have been working from home quite intensely over the last bit. And so we believe that what we are asking for is hopefully can be approved and provide us a home that we can live in for some time into the future. And I guess objectively, looking at the comparables, we think we're in line, and the extension in the back of 5 feet, I think, is a reasonable extension in relation to all the new builds that have happened around the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Laura Young. Are you there?
Hello, yes, I am.
Miss Young, can I get your full name and address, please?
Laura Young, Y-O-U-N-G. The address is 72 Walder Avenue. I'm directly behind Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Just something that arose when Jeff was mentioning south of Broadway. That's the city of Toronto.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Jeff was mentioning that just something that I thought of as Jeff was speaking is that he mentioned comparable south of Broadway. South of Broadway is the city of Toronto.
I don't know, madam.
I think what she's referring to is City of Toronto versus former City of North York, or East York, or.
Are you making that with respect to a particular variance? Because variance number 5.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Because, okay, what are you referring to as with respect to North York and City of Toronto?
Mr. Seda had mentioned comparables south of Broadway.
Well,
But south of Broadway is the city of Toronto.
So
the city of Toronto has different rules.
I'll ask him to clarify, because sometimes the former boundary of North York skirts around quite a bit, so it's hard to figure out where it is. So or where it was, pardon me, because technically no longer exists. But I'll ask the owner when he comes back to clarify that.
Okay. So what I wanted to mention are 2 things. One is if I could make the request of a privacy screening or on the deck, or higher fence. And my second item is if there's to be stone cutting, a wet saw or a covering tarp be used, or if there's any destruction of building materials, that a tarp be used. I'm environmentally sensitive and have health issues, and so this is a very big concern for me.
I hear you, madam, but unfortunately that's not something that's within our mandate. That's something that would be dealt with through the municipal licensing and standards in the building division.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
That was all.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any
All right,
questions of the
thanks.
speaker? There being none, I'll go back to the owner. Mr. Zato, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You heard
Can you
the
hear me
comments
okay?
from Ms. Young. If you'd like to respond to them, I guess she had a question about your comparables, whether they were former City of Toronto or former City of North York.
Yeah. Well, first I'd like to address the last point. Laura, I totally understand and empathetic to to some of the disruption of any construction. So we'll endeavor to ensure that a lot of that your concerns are placated or remediated. We have experienced very similar issues with all the houses around us being built. So we will endeavor to make this as peaceful as we can and make sure it's not as disruptive. And in terms of the privacy screen, we can certainly discuss options around that, including higher fence coverage or whatever needs to be done to ensure, as I said, minimal disruption. In regards to the coverage comparables, I had mentioned that we had connected with someone from the planning committee and looked at comparables both along Broadway Avenue and south of Broadway. So those were sort of the two sort of data points that we had looked at.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I was still considering the coverage, but I do believe that within that area there are higher coverages, and so I'm prepared to accept a higher coverage for that area. That was my main concern. I will put forward then a motion to approve this application, but I will make it subject to the recommendations of the staff report of October 7th, in that variance number 3 will be no more than 42%, and that the proposal be constructed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, included as attachment 1. And this may not be subject to forestry, but I do believe that there's privacy screening and private agreements that will take place. And I'm not going to put that in the motion, but I do hope that gets worked out between the neighbors, and that's my motion.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion. Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, sir. Your application is approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions.
Mr. Chairman, there was no forestry condition.
Yeah, I was trying to say no forestry conditions. I just wanted their private agreement noted.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, that was it. So just the city planning conditions, sir.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I misunderstood. Sir, your application is approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Okay, thank you,
number 34,
everyone.
118 Tyndale Avenue. That is one person registered to speak. Andy Verheul, are you there, sir? Andy Verheul?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Andy Verhill from AVA Design Studio. My office is at 67 Mowat Avenue in Toronto.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have a report from City Planning dated the 14th of October, and it's recommending refusing variances 1, 2, and 5. And that's relating to amenity space and bicycle parking. I wanted to know, in view of these recommended refusals, if you'd like to defer the application so you can discuss this issue further with city planning.
So we have spoken with Bruna Negra, and
just a moment, sir. You just have to say yes or no. Would you like to defer it to discuss with planning, or would you like your application heard today?
I think, well, we'd like to clarify with planning, so I think a deferral would be appropriate since we've revised the drawings and we have submitted them to the Committee of Adjustment, but the old set of drawings are in the file and not the new ones.
Okay, so
the new ones.
You'd like to defer the application to discuss it with planning.
Mr. Chair, members, if I may, please note that we did receive Committee of Adjustment has received updated plans as of today from the applicant, and we have them in the file. We can bring them up right now for you if you'd like.
Okay, well, I have to know whether sir, would you like Would you like to defer the application or would you like us to hear it today?
I would like to hear it today.
Okay, thank you. If you could then give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal, addressing
Absolutely.
those particular concerns raised by city planning.
Okay. We currently submitted revised drawings, and we've tried to address all the issues from city planning. So what we have, there is an existing, an interior renovation had been done in the last few months. The existing lobby now has a residential seating area of 33.7 square meters. So that's what we're counting that as interior amenity space. We've also reduced the size of the platform to the north of the building, the bottom of the page. We've reduced it so it's no longer within that, within the proximity to the side yard setback. So that's basically, we've moved that, which is item number 3. We've addressed items 1 and 2 by noting that there is existing interior amenity space. So we are renovating locker storage area, which has not been used by any of the residents for many years. We had a survey done and they require that we are supposed to have, I believe, 36 lockers. So that's what we provided. We've turned the unused space into 2 bachelor units, and then we also have management storage for the management. So in our minds, we've addressed the interior, the long-term bike parking by adding, I think it's 4 bike parking spaces in the B1 level. So that's at A200. So we've addressed that minor variance. Yeah, and that's basically what we have done in comparison to the existing set of drawings that are on file. So here you can see in the top right-hand corner, we've put long-term bike storage. There was a bike rack on the site already, so we have the amount of short-term bike storage. So there's that. Okay. So I mean, we're working with the planning department to address their needs. Okay. And their concerns.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker?
I do have something, Mr. Chair. I find this really hard today because you know, if this is the same thing they're pulling up on screen, that's part of my package, I can understand, but I'm having trouble seeing this. I know he's explaining it, but I cannot visually see this. And I just need clarification. Is that what we already have in our documents? Because that's what I took time to sort of review. And if this is something that's on the fly that's being submitted and I have to look at this like on the spot, that's very unfair for the people who are sitting here who've taken the time to look at this in advance. I just need to clarify that, because if that's the case, I'm not in a position, I can't see very well all of those plans on a screen, and I could just only hear what's being told, and you know, just I can't see it to make the decision myself, so I would have to abstain. I just need to know if that's what we've got, sir.
Ms. Sankar, that's a fair comment. Mr. Wills, did these plans just come in, or because I don't think they're not in our agenda, are they?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. These plans just came in. They came in today, at least to my inbox. They came in today. They had been bouncing around between the assistant planner and the agent, though, for the last couple of days between them. But it only just got to us as committee adjustment today.
Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Chairman, I also believe that, Mr. Chairman, I believe that planning has not seen these because their report's recommending deferral. If they had reviewed these and they were okay with it, we'd have a different report.
Okay, well then we have what, Mr. Antonetti, are you saying that we should not be dealing on the basis of the plans that were not on our agenda?
I just want the members to make sure they understand that I don't believe planning has had a chance to comment on these revised plans. Because if you look at their report, they have concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe the applicant can let us know if they have reviewed it.
Thank you, Mr. Antonacci. Ms. Sankar, you were correct. These are not in, I thought so too. These are not in our agenda. They just came in today. So we'll have to deal with it. We have already asked the applicant if he wanted to defer the application. Okay, so we've heard, do you have a question you'd like to ask to the applicant? Okay, thank you. So then if I could get a motion on this application. Because it appears, and actually I'm going to address this comment back to the agent. Sir, can you tell me, by virtue of the fact that you've made these modifications, do you still need these variances?
After hearing all of this, is it possible for me to ask for a deferral at this point?
So that we can. I think that would be advisable. I think
so. I would like to ask for a deferral if I could.
Okay, thank you. I have a request from the applicant to defer the application so we can discuss it with planning. Someone just make that motion. Ms. Sankar?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll motion to defer this application so that we can get updated reports and he can talk to planning, have them review, sine die. Thank you.
You very much, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been deferred to the next available meeting so that you can discuss these revised plans with city planning and make any necessary changes to your notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Sankar, thank you very much for that. Item number 35, 48 Fairside Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That's Eddie Perez. Are you there, sir?
Hello, good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. I'm Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owners and the designers.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just going through your file, I note that there's a report from City Planning dated the 12th of October. They indicate that they have no objections to your application, provided that the applicant installs a privacy screen along the north edge of the rear second-story balcony, measuring at least 1.5 meters in height. And I just wanted to ask, sir, is that, have you had the opportunity to review that report?
Yeah, I did, and we're okay with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's pretty clear what you're asking for in the variances before us, sir. We have no other persons registered to speak. And I just wanted to ask, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
No, everything is straightforward, and we have a letter of support from the neighbors as well.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, can I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am taking this staff recommendation for this particular application and install the privacy screen along with the north edge of the rear second-story balcony, measuring 1.5 meter in height. I move that this application be approved with staff conditions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Have someone to second that motion, please? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? Mr. Hunt, are you in favor? Wait, we're on number 35, 48 Fairside. I don't think he, we've lost him. Okay, he wasn't here for the, anyway, so we have, let's make a note that Mr. Hunt wasn't present for 48 Fairside, so we're just voting with Mr. Khan, Mr. Kidd, and Ms. Sankar, so that I have a motion, I have a unanimous motion in favor of the applicant, in favor of approving, subject to the city planning report of the 12th of October. Thank you very much, Mr. Perez.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. We'll take a brief break and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, committee's back in session. We're now on item number 36, 224 Poplar Plains Road. I have the agent to speak on this item, Sylvia Brabender. Are you there?
Very close.
Yes, hello. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, this is Sylvie de Brabandier. The address is 36 Caroline Avenue, M4M2X7, Toronto.
Okay, thank you, madam. I just note that there is no staff comment or condition on this application, which kind of surprised me. I had a couple of questions. The building that's on the property, is it an apartment building?
I believe that they use it for some of their home business in law, but that I'm not specifically sure on. I do know that they use the front area for some parking. So they're mostly just looking to replace the existing porch, which is starting to rot out a little, with a new landing and stairs. And interestingly enough, as you'll note, there were no comments on the actual construction of that, but the comment is directed at the hardscaping of the property. We would like to keep that hardscaping as it is. We're not asking to change it or revamp it or anything like that. We just want to maintain it as is.
Okay, because I wanted to ask is what the use is, because I when I was up to take a look at the site, I'm trying to wonder, why would somebody need almost their entire lot paved over?
Right. I believe this might have been done at the same time as a few of the neighboring properties. It's very rare that you ever see cars taking up the entire space. I think that the intention of them wanting to keep it as is, one, they're not looking to actually redo the landscape and incur costs with that. But they do also, keep access to that back laneway. It is not apartment buildings, though, that I'm certain of.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask again, you just have the one variance before us and there's no one else to depute on this item. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the committee that you haven't told us already, or you'd like to add that isn't in the material we have before us today?
Sure. I would just add that the neighbors on either side, we have spoken to them and they are both in support of it. As you can see there, the neighboring properties also have a fair amount of paving there, and there is no parking on that street. So that is a consideration as well, but I believe everything else is before you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I motion to approve this application. I think it does meet the four tests, fairly simple and well explained in its simplicity. So motion to approve this application without condition.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second that? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, your application has been unanimously approved without condition.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members.
Thank you. We're on item number 37, which is 1 Virtue Street. I have 4 people registered to speak. The agent is either Angus Skeen or Thomas Carnegie. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes. Can I get your name and address, please?
My name is Thomas Carnegie, 47 Sorora Ave.
Sir, can you speak up? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Thomas Carnegie, 47 Sorora Ave.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 other persons registered to speak, so if you could give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of...
Unmute me. Ask them to unmute me.
Pardon me?
How do I do that? Could you please unmute me?
No, Angus Skeen.
And bring Angus Skeen on. He is going to speak.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Could you please unmute Angus Skeen? He is going to speak.
Mr. Member and Chairs, the account called Angus Skeen is currently unmuted.
Oh.
Yes, hi. My name is Angus Skeen. I am speaking for the agent, and I'd be happy to do the presentation at this time
Okay,
if you'd like to start the
thank you.
timer.
If you would, please. Could I get your address?
Yes, my address is 142 Glendale Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you, sir. If you could give us a presentation then.
Certainly. This is a proposal for a small third floor addition and deck on an existing two-story semi-detached house. These are owner occupiers. I believe there's about 13 letters of support from neighbors, and there are no staff reports. In particular, there's no staff report from planning. The proposal requires 4 variances, 1 for FSI and 3 for height. If the members can direct themselves to the site plan, drawing A1, I will address FSI first. This is a very small lot, and FSI ratios work fine as long as there's a reasonable relationship between the building area and the lot area, but in this case, there really isn't. This is a small lot carved out from other lots a long time ago, and how small it is demonstrated by the bylaw requires a lot in this zone to be a minimum of 160 square meters. That's the minimum lot size. This lot is 96 square meters, so that's just a little over half that required minimum. With that kind of discrepancy, it's no great surprise that the FSI ratio number is coming in so high at 1.39. But I think if the committee turns their attention to this specific proposal on this specific lot, they will see that the request is minor. I would also put it in another way. The existing house is 1,000 square feet. The proposal will bring it up to 1,400 square feet. I've been putting additions on houses in this neighborhood for 25 years, and 1,400 square feet is a small house. It's usually the size that people with more normal lots begin to add to the house to bring it up to about 2,000 or more square feet. I'll turn now to height. There are 3 height variances required. 2 of them are duplicates, one under the old, one under the new. These duplicates are for the total building height, and that's the variance for 10.7. And the other height is the main wall height. I'll deal with the total building height first. I think it's important to understand that the total building height permitted in the zone is 10 meters, and that the existing 2-story house is about 7 meters high, which means it's about 3 meters lower than the permitted maximum. 3 meters is 1 story. So it's obviously the intent of this bylaw to permit 3rd stories to be added to houses in this zone. So the question today is not whether the 3rd story accepts the intent of the bylaw. It certainly does. It's simply whether the 0.7 meters is too much, if it's minor or major. I believe it's minor. First off, if committee members could have a look at the north elevation drawing, number A7, you'll see that the 10.7 measurement is actually to the top of a skylight, not to the roof itself. The roof is actually at about 10.3 meters. So while we're asking for 10.7, I'd just like to make sure that you understand that the 10.3 meters is the roof at its highest, at the front of the house, and that the roof slopes down towards the backyard. The last height variance is the main wall height. And as I'm sure the committee have known through experience, main wall height comes in to regulate and break up the massing of 3rd floors on residential properties. It usually forces a sloping back of the wall at the 3rd floor to basically create a roof sloping at a 3 to 5 minimum angle. And it does that simply to sort of back off from the streetscape. It requires it at the front and the back. In this case, I think we've respected the intent of that rule by not just sloping the main wall at the front, but actually pushing it back a full 3 meters. So if the idea is to pull back from the street at the 3rd floor level, I think we're certainly doing that. The thing I'd wrap all these up in, the FSI and the height, is if you look again at the site plan, you'll see that to the east and the north and the west, this building really has no adjacent structures, or none certainly within what anyone could call a close relationship. Granted, to the south, it's attached to the other half of the semi, but I've got to say that anyone resident in number 3 Virtue would have a very hard time knowing this 3rd floor addition was built or even existed unless they could see through their roof, which obviously they can't. Also, number 1 and number 3 Virtue have no backyard, so it's not even that a person standing in the backyard at number 3 would be aware of this structure. So I'll close by just asking you to judge the FSI on the radically small size of the lot, to assess the height variances on the knowledge that a 3rd floor is clearly the intent of the bylaw here, and lastly, that the idea behind the main wall height rule, the setting back, the sloping of the 3rd floor, is certainly met with our setback of this 3rd floor. I'm happy to answer any questions, and thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Skeen, you have to realize, I like your presentation, but you have to realize that when you exceed the limits of the zoning bylaws, then you are not complying with the zoning bylaws or the standards. So in that regard, I don't agree what you are presenting about your variance number 4 and number 3 and number 1. And these are beyond the limits and allowable of the zoning bylaws.
I don't think a question was addressed to me. I can certainly answer the idea. I certainly believe that the role of the Committee of Adjustment is to look at specifics where the general bylaws are applied to particular proposals on particular lots. I believe there's precedence in the area easily for all of the variances sought, whether it's FSI or height. I believe what I've said is quite sound, that a 0.7 meter excess in a zone that permits a third floor is pretty reasonable. That the FSI is pretty explicable given this peculiar lot division, a lot division that would have taken place 50 years prior to any zoning bylaw existing in the city. And I certainly would stand by what I say about the main wall height rule, that the zoning bylaw's intent is to slope the front wall at the third floor. And we not only do that, but we push it all the way back. I believe the proponent has even added privacy screens to the deck to further ameliorate anything, but I'd underscore that the deck requires no variances as well. So if that's an answer, I would say that respectfully.
Mr. Skin, you have to realize it's a semi-detached house.
Yeah, no, I'm aware it's a semi-detached house, and I realize that semi-detached houses come under all the same regulations. I also realize that in discussions with the owner of number 3 Virtue, they fully intend to add a third floor at some time in the future as well. I again would say that the existence of it being semi or not semi doesn't affect anything I've said, because the truth is, as I mentioned, from the property of number 3 Virtue Street, it would be almost impossible for them to be aware of this project existing to the north of their house. And any concerns anyone has about the public realm from the street side, I would underscore again that the planning department is on top of all these issues regularly with reports to Committee of Adjustment. Planning has reviewed this application and has absolutely no concerns.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any further comments of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have William Roderick McIver. Are you there?
I am here, yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can I get your full name and address?
Certainly, William McIver at 3 Virtue Street, the attached neighbor.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Yeah, absolutely. First, addressing his comments, I have no intention of submitting a plan to add a third story to my own home. I'd been discussing the addition at 1 Virtue with the owners there since March. I've aligned with them to go in for rental mitigation. They unfortunately decided to push forward unilaterally.
Sir, your voice seems to be breaking up. Can you either hold the phone closer, or we're just having trouble deciphering some of your sounds?
Yes, for sure. Is this a little bit better?
That's better. Okay, that's better.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my phone. Is that still okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I have a number of objections to the proposal. The first is in terms of density. I think the existing house is grandfathered in at about 1. It's built up, of course, directly to my property, and there's no backyard. They're cantilevering to the north, almost, I think, within like a foot of the existing property line, with 4 neighbors there who are also objecting to the proposal due to shading and massing and scale. And then directly to the neighbor at number 2. So to counter Angus's point that there are no affected properties, there are certainly some very affected properties who are not supportive of this proposal. I believe they're proposing to increase the FSI to 1.39 something. These are already essentially proto laneway houses that were carved out of the full depth lots from the opposite street, and so they already represent densification. I'm all for contemporary addition and renovations and additions in the city, but I believe that this unique condition at the end of this dead end street already represents that in this neighborhood. The rest of the street is largely two-story homes, and again, to counter Angus's point, I believe that the existing bylaw is to allow for peaked roofs of two-story homes, which you'll see up and down the street here. This three-story monolith that they're proposing, I don't believe is aligned with the scale or massing with the streetscape. It would loom over the end of the street, almost essentially privatizing the street from the view, and I don't believe is appropriate for the public realm. In terms of specific challenges with my own property, their front deck would cantilever out, look down into my front yard, my side yard, and my master bedroom windows, as well as all the structural concerns, which I know are not a concern of the committee, but which they have refused to engage me on. And so just the tone of the conversation and the collaboration has been quite challenging. I don't believe that there are any precedents in the neighborhood that support the three variances they're looking for. The only one that they could share was an apartment building along a common row a block away. The other precedents that they cite are only two of the three variances, and typically they're rear yard, third floor additions that have no impact on the streetscape. Otherwise, there's an existing precedent as well. One street to the south, there's another dead end street called Saunders. That's two-story end cap houses there. So I believe that's reflected there. I think that the main wall variances and the overall height variance they're looking for do essentially determine the massing and the scale of the proposed development, which would radically impact shading and privacy for all the neighbors to the north and to the west of the property. Again, to Angus's point, I can't see through my roof, but it would loom over my property, and I object quite strongly to the proposal, specifically as it exists for this specific site. Just having a small site is no excuse to radically exceed the limits for density or to go above and beyond for height and impact so many families in the direct and adjacent vicinity. So happy to answer any questions there just about the process to date or my own objections, but hopefully you've had a chance to look at my letter. I included as well a quick rendering of what I believe the impact on the streetscape would be, contrary to the hand-drawn pencil sketch that they've been circulating with neighbors to get a number of letters of support from people who were not directly impacted by this project.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Clay Stang. Are you there?
Mr. Chair and members, Clay is not present on the call at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wills. Go to the next person on the list. I have a Sarah Robichaux. Are you there?
I am here.
Yes, Ms. Robichaux. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Sarah Ann Robichaux, and my address is 9 Marion Street, Toronto, Ontario, and my postal code is N6R1E4.
Okay, thank you, madam. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My property, 9 Marion Street, is sort of to the immediate north of the applicant property. My backyard is separated from their yard by a small yard area belonging to number 2 Virtue Street. I appreciate the efforts made by the applicant to address some of the concerns of the neighbor, but I think the reality with this property is that really there are few modifications that can be made that meaningfully address the concerns of several neighbors to the north of the property, as well as the concerns we heard from their immediate neighbor to the south. The applicant's representative actually said it, I think my exact point he made for me. It's about particular proposals on particular lots. And in this case, the applicants are basically arguing that because their lot is so small, they should be granted these variances that may be more appropriate to larger lot sizes and larger properties. And I strongly disagree with that sentiment. Because of the keystone or keyhole, I guess is the term, configuration of the lots here, with this property being at the end of a dead-end street and therefore being surrounded on both the north and east sides entirely by other people's backyards, and then not having their own back or side yard to speak of, to provide any sort of setback or buffer between the building and the neighboring properties. Any addition to this property, to the building on this property, will sit almost immediately at the property line to several properties to the north and east. And I think that's a really important consideration, and it distinguishes this property in a meaningful way from the precedents they've cited, where the additional height was permitted on a mid-block property where the additional roof line lay in line with other houses along the street. In this case, the applicant property really sits as a tower sitting in the middle of a field of backyards around it. So the impact visually of the additional height is really meaningful and distinctive from the other properties. And then of course the other piece is because there's no, because of that same issue, the tower in the middle of the field, there's real concerns for privacy as well as sunlight and shading and the visual impact of that additional height and how it blocks out what tree canopy does exist to the south of us. Myself, Clay Strang, the applicant who wasn't able to speak, he's my next door neighbor. He's been texting me saying, I'm going to try and make it. He unfortunately works for himself and he had a meeting he had to be in. So that's why he's not here. But I know he's written a letter that expresses similar sentiments to what I'm saying as to other neighbors along this north facing side here. And our houses, really all the sunlight they get comes from the south, and they're dark houses to begin with, and adding a third floor really will make a meaningful impact to the shading and the sunlight that gets into our yards and houses to the north. And then of course the privacy, particularly with the third floor deck. The applicant's representative said the third floor deck wasn't part of the variances, but it is implicit to the design they've submitted here. And it does have there is a real concern among all of us along this side about having this third story deck that sits at the property line. It's not set back. There are no trees to buffer it. It sits right there. The privacy screen they've proposed in their drawings is less than 5 feet high. So almost any adult standing on that deck would be able to see out into the sea of backyards, directly underneath it. And so those are sort of our key concerns: sunlight, visual impact, privacy. And as I said, I think those two factors that really distinguish the property from the others, the precedents they've cited for these variances are the unique property configuration here, that keyhole design that the agent and Will both spoke to around how they're already carved out of the backyards of other properties in the street, and there is no yard space, and they're surrounded by other people's yards. So I see I'm out of time. Thank you for considering my thoughts on this.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, that's our last speaker. I'll go back to Mr. Skeen. Are you there? Mr. Skeen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You heard the previous speakers, if you'd like to address their concerns.
Yes, I think I would, and I think I can. I think, I don't know if it's possible if you can bring up the location map so that participants can see the context of the building. It's quite important to underscore planning, who routinely concern themselves with these sorts of projects, has no objections, that we are seeking no setback variances. So regardless of anything said by the opposition, we are needing no setback variances. And in fact, it would be good if people understood that the side yard setback for this project under the bylaw, or the required side yard setback for this law, is 18 inches, 0.45 meters. This project is set back 1.2 meters from the north property line. So there's this business of people on Marion being concerned that we're somehow imposing on them doesn't respect the concept of the required side yard setback that we're respecting. Also, the houses on Marion, number 7 Marion is 40 meters away. Number 9 Marion is 36 meters away, and number 11 is actually 28 meters away. And if you look at the key plan, you'll see when the last person speaking from number 9 mentioned the tower in the field, there quite literally is a field between us and them. And I think it's perhaps a little bit optimistic in an intense downtown neighborhood to think that 0.7 of a meter excess height 40 meters from your back door is a real imposition on you. Regarding any opposition from number 2, it's interesting to see there was a letter submitted by number 2. Number 2 does not. It actually faces the street. It's only the garden of number 2 that's adjacent to the north of this property. And again, we are set back far more than we need to be. And coming back to the opposition from number 3, it's just a simple fact. There's no way anyone in number 3 could know this project existed unless they press their face to the glass of the front window of their home, crane their head up, and they might see the undercarriage of the deck. Which brings me to the deck. In the R zone, you are allowed decks at the first floor, second floor, or third floor. There's a requisition that they're not more than 0.8 of a meter above the floor from which they gain access. Other than that, the deck can project into the required front yard setback 50% of the setback or 1.5 meters. This deck projects into the setback about 0.9 of a meter, 3 feet. It could legally go 5 feet. So I would think this deck is completely reasonable. And again, I'll underscore, there are no variances required for this deck. They are legal in the R zone as of right. So I think I'd just like to underscore to the committee, there's no planning opposition. I think a rational and cool look at the variances will tell you that they are minor. I think the setbacks more than ameliorate any concerns of the neighbors. And with that, I'll just open myself to questions from the panel.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Please note that there are no staff comments or recommended conditions associated with this application. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After listening to Mr. Skeen and the people in opposition and having no staff recommendation for this application, I find this variance number 1 very high, and variance number 3, main wall heights exceeding the allowable, and variance number 4, building height exceeding the allowable. All variances are not minor. They do not comply zoning bylaws and the official plan, and not a suitable development to enhance the neighborhood developments. Fails the test. Therefore, I move application be refused.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. We have a motion from Mr. Khan to refuse the application. Although, can I get someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Hunt, are you opposed or are you in favor of the motion?
Mr. Chair, I just got back online, so I didn't hear the whole discussion.
The motion from Mr. Khan was to refuse the application. Ms. Sankar and Mr. Kidd support that motion. Do you support that motion?
I just got back online, Mr. Chair, so I did not hear the
Okay,
full
all right,
discussion.
okay,
so-
all right. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I'll exclude, just make note, Mr. Wills, that Mr. Hunt was absent from this vote.
We'll make note, thank you.
So we have Mr. Khan's motion is approved by the committee, and sir, unfortunately, your application has been refused. We are now on item number 38, which is 802 Shaw Street. I have 2 people registered to speak.
Mr. Chair and members, the area resident is not present on the call at this
Okay,
time.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wills. We have just the owner, Amanda Cook. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Can I get your full name and address, please?
The Cook, 802 Shaw Street, Toronto.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. I note that going through your file, there are no comments from staff or any recommended municipal conditions. You have three variances before us. It's pretty clear what you're asking for. I just wanted to ask if there is anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon.
I believe everything's in the material, including the 12 letters of support from our neighbors, but just want to underscore that the neighbors that we're attached to and the neighbors that are immediately behind us have also approved and signed letters. So everyone adjacent to us. And one more thing I'd like to add is on our block from Leeds to Irene Street, the west side of Shaw, there are 25 houses in total, and 21 of those houses have third floors. So I think we're far within what the other homes look like in the area and the size and the third floor addition.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having listened to the applicant and acknowledging that there's no departmental comments or concerns and no one speaking in opposition, I'll move acceptance of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Madam, your application has been approved with Mr. Khan dissenting, and there are no conditions. So your application has been approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Item 39, 31 to 35 St. Denis Street. Mr. Hunt, you have a conflict. Let's just go to
hello?
Yes, hello. I have one person registered to speak. That's Sidney Paul. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here, Sidney Paul of 168 Ava Road,
Yes,
Toronto.
thank you, sir. I just going through your application. I note that your only staff report on file is one from Transportation Services dated the 14th of October, and they have no objections to your proposed parking variances. So I just like to indicate if there's anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material that we have before us. I note that this has come back to us from, it was adjourned from it was deferred from a previous meeting so that you could meet with transportation.
That's correct, yes.
And you've sorted out all your issues, and transportation has no issues anymore with respect to parking.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material that we have before us today?
There's one variance that we've been trying to get the zoning examiner to see that we added an additional handicap parking space, which is mentioned in the transportation report as well. And we were able to adjust the parking without losing any parking. And so that's why they're part of the reason their report is positive, but it also is a variance that we do not need to have on the list.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd?
Sorry, I just wasn't clear on his comments. Was he suggesting he wanted to revise the application?
No, he's
One
just
of the variances?
he's just indicating, Mr. Kidd, that the variance number 3 was a new one. But that was
Thank you.
Again, there are no objections to the application from Transportation Services. So if I could get a motion on this this application, please, Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given the support of the set out in the transportation report. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application without.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. I have a motion for Mr. Kidd to approve it without condition. Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Item number 40, 38 Castle Knock Road. I have one person registered to speak. That is Jillian Green. Are you there? Ms. Green, Jillian Green?
Mr. Chair and members, Jillian is unmuted and present.
Oh. Do you suggest we do, Mr. Wills, hold this for 5 minutes?
Jillian, if you could log off and log back in, making sure you authorize your microphone, we can make sure we can get this done with nice and quick.
No, we'll stand down for a couple of minutes. Okay, thank you. We'll just take a break while we can try and get a hold of Ms. Green.
Hey, Jillian, can we do a mic check with you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We'll get started here in a sec then.
Okay.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, committee's back in session. I'm looking for, we're on item number 40, 38 Castle Knock Road. I'm looking for Jillian Green. Are you there?
I am.
Yes, Ms. Green, can I get your full name and address, please?
Jillian Green, and I'm at 226 Havelock Street in Toronto.
Madam, can you speak up? It's very hard to hear.
I'm at 226 Havelock Street in Toronto.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam, just going through your application, I noticed there's some reports on file from city staff. There's a recommended condition from urban forestry. There's also a planning report from the 7th of October recommending that you modify variance number 1 for the proposed rear yard soft landscaping from 46.95 to 47.78%. Modify variance number 3 for the proposed maximum allowed building height from 10.83 to 10.75 meters. Eliminate variance number 5 for the proposed building length. And modify variance number 6 for the proposed maximum allowed floor space index from 0.99 times the area of the lot to 0.907 times the area of the lot. but planning is still recommending that the FSI be reduced to 0.85 meters by the committee. And what I'm asking you, madam, is that there's a lot of modifications here, and then it seems like planning is still asking you to reduce it asking us to reduce it even further with respect to the floor space index. Would you like to defer this application to discuss these issues with planning, or would you like your application to be heard today?
I would like the application to be heard today.
Okay, so I think what you need to do is tell us what modifications you want to make, and then give us a brief presentation on why you think they're appropriate.
So, the modifications, yeah. So
what you could do is if you tell us at the beginning, so we can put it on the public record, is what modifications are you making to your application today, and we'll itemize them all.
Okay. So we were working with planning. The project was revised on October 4th in consultation with the planners, and the staff report was written after that, and so we were again prompted to revise the package, which we have resubmitted this morning. So the most recent comments and recommendations from the planner found in the staff report further called us to reduce and revise the plan, and this new drawing package was uploaded this morning, addresses the staff report's recommendation to have the FSI at 0.85.
Okay, madam. Can you start at the beginning and just tell the committee what revisions you've made to your application?
Okay,
so can you tell, like, what I'm getting at is, if you've revised variance number 1, tell us what that variance is. What are you changing it from, and what are you changing it to?
Okay, so the variance number 1 was the minimum 50% of the rear yard setback for soft landscaping. So initially we had 46.95 in the submitted variance chart.
Okay.
And now with our new revised version, we take it below the 50% or above the 50%, so we can actually eliminate that variance.
Okay, so variance number 1 is deleted?
Yes. Variance number 2 is an existing ancillary building that we're renovating. That stays the same.
Okay.
Variance number 3, actually, okay, so on the original mailing, it called out for a height, proposed height of 10.83 meters. This was actually an error on the chart. It was actually a bit higher. I believe it was 10.92. But our revised application, or our revised drawings, are showing the proposed height at 10.75 meters.
Madam,
so we're
hang on a second.
Reducing.
Hang on a second.
Yep.
Variance number 3 reads the proposed height of the building is 10.83 meters. So is it
correct
being reduced, or is it being increased?
It's being reduced.
Okay, so
it's being reduced.
It's going from 10.83 meters to what value?
10.75.
10.75. Beauty. Okay, what's the next one?
The next one does not change. Number 4 does not change.
Okay, 4 stays the same.
Number 5, we have been able to delete because
Number
we are
5 is
reducing
deleted. Okay.
Yep. We're reducing the
Number
length of
6.
the overall length. Number 6, okay, so on the mailing, it was saying that it was 0.99, and obviously the staff report has called it to be 0.85, and our reduction is 0.855.
Okay, 0.855. Okay, all right. And variance number 7 stays the same?
Stays the same. stays the
Okay,
same.
perfect, thank you. And I guess the only other recommendation I noted was that, from planning, was that if we approve it, that the proposal is constructed substantially going through those changes. Is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't, it's pretty clear what you're asking for, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
No, that we have, I mean, that just to underline the fact that prior to any of the revisions, we had 14 letters of support from adjacent neighbors, including the immediate neighbors. And it was all based on our initial application when we were requesting the relief on the full 7 variances.
Okay, thank you, madam. Just ask the committee, does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this revised application? Before I get that motion, let's just be clear on the changes to the application, which puts it in pretty much in compliance with what city planning was asking for. Variance number 1 regarding the rear yard soft landscaping, that's been deleted. Variance number 2 stays the same. Variance number 3 with respect to the proposed building height has been reduced from 10.83 meters to 10.75 meters. Variance number 4 stays the same. Variance number 5 for building length, that's been deleted. Variance number 6, which relates to floor space index, has been reduced from an FSI of 0.99 to 0.855. And variance number 7 remains the same. So if I could get a, does anyone have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this revised application, please? Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the proposal as amended meets the purpose of the zoning bylaws and are minor in nature. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application with the revisions that you've just read into the record and make that subject to the condition that the proposal be constructed substantially in accordance with the site plan, front, side, and rear elevation drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment as attachments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the staff report dated October 7, 2021, and also subject to forestry conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, thank you for your patience. Your revised application's been unanimously approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. That's it. Thank you. Can I get a motion to terminate? Thank you, Ms.
Motion to terminate.
I'll second that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Great job as usual. Bye now.